We had an off week, and we are finally back. The card starts a little earlier than usual, but it's not a stupid early card. We have UFC Vegas 37 this Saturday. Anthony Smith versus Ryan Spann. I have Chris Reilly with me. Chris Reilly sets the monkey knife fight lines. If you don't know what monkey knife fight is, we walk through the amount of strikes we think somebody's going to land. You pick the more, you pick the less. You smash it together, and you win a bunch of money. If you want to play, go to wewantpicks.com/MKF. There is an instant deposit match. If you deposit 20, they'll give you 20. If you deposit 100, they'll give you 100. Super easy. Make a deposit, create an account, follow along, and they have every sport as well. You like football, it's football season. I know my brother-in-law just steals my fight picks, and then he gives me his football picks, and he's absolutely crushing it in football. I wish I knew a little more to follow along, but we're going to walk through our fight picks. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. It's good to be back. It feels like it's been a while. I don't know why. It's only been 2 weeks, but it definitely, maybe because of the early start time, I don't know. But I've been missing my UFC.
Yeah, because the last card was an early start time, then a week off. Now, it's funny. I like the week offs because I don't have to do an insane amount of work. But then I also am like missing it, and I get obsessed with like the channel growing, and it doesn't grow in the off weeks. So then I hit a little dark, deep hole.
Yeah, so now we're sword.
All right, so on Tuesday, we did our full card breakdown. We walked through every single fight, who we think wins, how, why, whatever. And we touched on the strike lines. You've obviously adjusted a bunch of these since then.
Of course. Yeah, dude, your Tuesday crowd's getting more and more. I don't know how much longer I can keep this deal with you. No, I'll keep it up for a while, obviously. I'm just telling you now, though, the bigger this channel grows, like the less sweet of the deals get because I can't do it all the time, And if you guys start pounding me so hard, yeah, you guys hit me on a few. But, other than that, not too many changes. And also I wanted to say thanks a lot for coming on yesterday. I know it's kind of hard and doing the solo act. That was a first for you, and you did an awesome job, and like everyone appreciates that. I know I do. I can't take a week off. This is my job, so I love getting your insight. And you guys got me on a couple ones. I mean, you can go back and listen to the podcast, but you guys caught me with my pants down, I guess, as you say. I put up a line on someone. I was just venturing a guess, and I was like, oh, that's all right. You got me on that one. So if you guys were able to get in on that one, good for you. Tuesdays, tune in.
Well, and what Chris is referring to is Tuesdays, we go live for our full card breakdown, and we break down the monkey knife fight lines along with, betting on everything else. And the gentleman's agreement is that Chris will leave the lines up live while we're filming. So if I'm going through and Dan's going through and we're saying this is a high line, this is a low line, definitely go over, under, instead of just racing to change it real quick, Chris will leave it up. You guys can play it because you're the loyal supporters, and then he'll move it in the morning. So here we are 2 days later. You've adjusted some lines. We have Anthony Smith, 72.5, Ryan Spann, 45.5 in the main event. It's an interesting fight. Two strikers. Ryan Spann's a little slow, but tons of power. Anthony Smith, pretty busy guy. Not exactly a ton of power. The round line on this, I think, is 3.5, right? 2.5?
It is dropping. It opened at 3.5, and it's dropping, and now it's at 2.5, and it's juiced under. And to be real with you, I don't understand why. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of biased. I'll say this right now. With Anthony Smith was a guy that for some reason I didn't want to like when he started, but dude, the guy is he's super cool. He's an intelligent dude. I love listening to the guy talk and seeing him on ESPN, but he's a tough motherfucker, man. I mean, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, but dude, that guy is so tough. And I'm looking at this drop. I get that he's the favorite, but with that said, Spann is in the same boat. I mean, these are big guys, and but unfortunately, I got to respect the line, and that's why I feel like these lines are kind of highish, but everyone's disagreeing with me. I'm getting pounded with overs, and that's something I kind of wanted to talk to you about as well, is even if it does go a few rounds, I'm not seeing any examples of this high volume from Anthony Smith. I mean, I'm looking at fights. He's a busy dude. He's fought quite a bit, and he's, dating back to 2019. I mean, he's got 5. I didn't see the Jones fight, but 45 strikes in 5 rounds. Teixeira, only 87 in 5 rounds, 51. I mean, the line that's set up right now, he's literally only gone over once, and everyone's thinking this is going to be the second one. But, I mean, with the round total being as low as it is, and just I'm not seeing the history from Anthony Smith being this busy with his strikes. So his numbers I'm not going to raise it too much, to be real with you. If everyone's going to keep pounding the overs, that's going to have to be one I'm going to eat. You know, I told you before, I got to take a stand. And that's where I'm at with him. And then I guess with Spann, I'm just trying to even out because he's even less busy, right? I mean, when he lands, sometimes it's over and it could be over. So same deal. His land's kind of cut in half. So that's where I'm sticking with them. But people are agreeing with you and against Vegas. And I agree with you, too. I don't see this going under 2.5 rounds because I don't know where that's going to come from. But with that said, I don't see the volume being there, so I doubt I'm going to raise it up. But we'll keep it in touch. But that's where we're at with those lines. So whatever you think it's going to be a quick finish, get that unders.
Yeah, and I agree. I'm looking at your original line. Your original line was 64 and 38. So I like the more when it was 64 and 38 because the reality is I actually don't understand Vegas on this one. I don't understand how they have Anthony Smith the favorite but think it's a quick fight. Because if Anthony Smith wins, it's not a quick fight, right? He should be sticking and moving, touching up Ryan, throwing in some nice combinations, dragging it out. If it's a quick fight, it's probably because Ryan Spann landed one of those sledgehammers and he had some trouble with Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith is one of the toughest people on the planet. Ryan Smith is a big, strong, powerful guy. I really don't see this ending in 10 minutes, 12 minutes. I think it goes a little longer. I liked more on 64. I liked more on 38. Now it is starting to get a little – because 45, and I know 38 to 45, we're only talking 7 strikes. But, you know, if you break it down, 45 is a little less than 10 a round over 5 rounds if you think it goes to the distance. So if you add 7 to that, it's almost like adding an entire round. So now the line's a little trickier. Yeah. It might be worth the less at this line, even though it hasn't moved tremendously. But I still think, personally, it goes a little longer. I think Anthony Smith will be busier. He'll be avoiding the big punches. Anthony Smith's numbers were low against Glover because Glover took him down like crazy. John Jones just pummeled him, so he didn't get off there. So I think Anthony Smith will have some room to strike. Ryan Spann will have some room to strike. I don't see either guy really looking to do anything else. But Ryan Spann, you start adding up 45, 50, 60 strikes. I don't know how many of those Anthony Smith can take. So it's an interesting line now, and I'd be curious to see what happens to it the rest of the week.
I hear you. It's just so funny. I keep looking at that 2.5, and I'm looking at a decision against Teixeira, decision against John Jones.
He's so tough. Yeah.
Are we saying that? But he's the favorite too, and that's the other thing. I'm not seeing many first-round knockouts on his resume either, or second round. You know, so yeah, this is a tricky one for sure.
Well, and that's why if you watch the breakdown and the betting guide coming soon, I did the over on rounds because even if Anthony Smith gets the crap kicked out of him, he is so tough. He will survive. He'll survive a couple of rounds. He can take a beating for a while.
Hope you're right.
All right, let's take a look at Mandy Bohm versus Ariana Lipski. This is an interesting matchup. People give me a hard time for thinking that Ariana can get this done. I mean, if you look at her last, she's coming off 2 losses. If you look at the losses, she was basically taken down and beaten up there. But look who she lost to. 2 phenomenal girls on the ground at that weight class. Mandy Bohm, a very different kind of matchup. This is an interesting strike line. Did you end up having to move this one?
I did have to move this one, and let me see exactly where I had it. Everybody is loving the over on this one, so I had to end up moving. Yeah, let me pull up Ariana here.
You had 67 for Ariana.
And we're at 75 now.
Yeah.
So we definitely had to go up on her, and this was one I thought was kind of interesting too, because something I don't see is we're getting pounded with that. And looking at her fight logs, I understand where you're coming from on her last 2. She got wrestled and taken down, and I guess this is kind of one of those fights where I personally don't know too much about Mandy Bohm, but from after listening to what you said, I don't know, it's not that phenomenal, and it sounds like it's going to be standing up, right? But with that being said, I've seen one fight where Ariana has a ceiling that's insane against, I don't know who this girl is, Depada or Tepaduda or something like that. She had 175, but then I've seen other 3-round ones against like Molly McCain and Calderwood, who I'm pretty sure, you know, that's not on the ground the whole time, and she's just in that 68, 67 range, and that's a 3-round decision. So I honestly, in her last 6 fights, and I guess we can obviously take away the last 2 because she was held down the whole time, and we don't think Mandy Bohm's going to hold her down. Well, at least that's the what everyone's calling for, a stand-up fight.
Yeah.
I'm just not 100% sure her volume is going to be one of those ones that we're going to see 100 plus again. But I mean, with that said, she has done it before, and everyone seems to like it because everyone's making me move it up, and I'll probably have to move it up again. The newer number is getting some overs as well. So, well, Angelo, can you help me out?
It's interesting because we basically give people 3 different lines. We give them the lines when we are live on Tuesday, your opening initial lines. Then we do this video after you've made your sort of midweek adjustments. And then on Friday, we basically have the final lines. So people get a look at 3 different lines. And this is one where at 67 and 56, I did like the more. 79, 64. Now it's starting to creep up and it's starting to get to a number where, I'm not positive. And I know it sounds dumb, like, oh, it's only 10 more. It's only 7 more. 7 more, 10 more is a big deal when the line is already, well thought out, if you will. So this is one, I think it goes the distance. I think it is a pretty busy, active fight. I don't see a ton of grappling. I liked the more before. Now, maybe. And honestly, that is the beauty of Monkey Knife Fight. You're paying people 2.5 times their money on this. So even if you play a few lines and you lose one, it's okay. You've made money. You're up money. And that's the key, right? I tell everybody, my move is I do $10. I have $100 a week. I play all 100. I do $10 on 10 different lines. And then usually at the end of the week, I'm pretty good. So,
hey, what works, right? People just need to listen to you. And they don't. I don't understand. Everyone should be winning. You guys have been doing well against us. And like I told you last week, I don't care if you guys do well against us because by the time the public comes in, I want my numbers sharp. And that's why I said when I'm doing well, I felt like you took it as in because you're doing bad. And that's not what I meant at all. I genuinely feel like we can all win together, right? And that's how it's been.
Hopefully our audience becomes the shark audience. And then everybody who doesn't watch us are the ones that you're taking their money. Nice, easy compromise we got going on there.
No, it is because I told you every show, people pour in day of the fight, night of the fight, and no one's putting in their due diligence to see what the hell's going on and taking advantage of shows like this. You got the guy explaining how he came up with his lines. Jump in. It's like,
I think there's so much value in you coming on here and explaining the logic because, to do the actual research and go look at every single fighter, their last X number of fights, what kind of matchup was it, how many did they land? You've already done that work, and you're sort of explaining it to us here. And there's a ton of value in that. Let's take a look at Montel Jackson versus JP Buys. This is a fight where Vegas said 1.5 rounds. And it's an interesting fight because JP Buys got smoked in his first outing. But Montel Jackson is not Bruno Silva. He doesn't possess that Bruno Silva power. He's not going to swing like that in the pocket. It's an interesting fight because if Montel Jackson wins, he'll go past his strike line, right? If JP Bays, he'll go past his because he needs a wrestling game plan to win. So it's interesting because I don't think this is a more because for it to be a more means that it's pretty back and forth. And I think if Montel imposes his will, I don't see JP getting off. And if JP imposes his, I don't see Montel getting off. So it's an interesting line. Why don't you walk us through how you got to this one?
Again, this one we're going to base it off the round line, and as you said, it's 1.5, which is interesting considering these are 135-pound dudes. And to what you said, also, I kind of agree with you. Sometimes I see that he's a big money favorite, but that doesn't mean he's just going to go in there and blow him away, right? But when you look at it, it's 1.5, and it's actually growing. The juice is 100 or minus 153 now on the over, so people are clearly taking advantage of that. And yesterday, I think was like minus 145. And sometimes something that I kind of like to do when you look at that is to think of it more as a percentage. Let me see if I can find out my quick calculator. Here we go. Yeah. So right now, what did I say that one was? It's minus 1. Okay, let's just do minus 151. When you actually break that down into a probability, minus 151 is just 60%. So they're saying 40% of the time it's going to go less than 2.5 rounds, right? And then if they fought 10 times, you can't be surprised if 4 times. That's kind of where they're getting with these numbers when you look at a probability. So if it goes under 1.5, it's definitely not going over those lines, right?
No.
So and then we had to account for Jackson's ceiling since he is the favorite, the heavy favorite. So obviously he's going to be doing all the work. And I don't know enough about buys. I know more about his wife than I do him. And, I saw him fight the one time and he had a brutal matchup. And I don't see Jackson being the same kind of a person as who was it, Bruno Silva. So, but Jackson's volume, he definitely has it. So that's why it's kind of scary. He's at 80, 96, and 190 if you take away his last 3-round fights. So again, we're kind of playing off the minutes. And at that kind of probability on the round total, you're kind of looking at 8.5 minutes. So, so it's a little shy because those other ones obviously went the full distance. So that's kind of where you break down the math right there. And that's where we're sitting at. And then from here, obviously, you let everyone play it and we move it. But, we take a ceiling. I don't take a ceiling of 160. That's not going to happen in this fight, especially with the Bases thing. But, 80, 86, 96, I mean, that could be realistic. You never know if he gets on top and sits there and does those little pop and shot stuff. So, yeah, this one's a tougher one for sure. And I'm with you again. And we kind of spoke about this before we recorded. These 1.5 lines seem crazy. I don't see the knockouts happening. So, or the submissions, the quick finishes. I feel like these fights are going to go a distance, and that's that fight, man. It's not very fun. It's hard when you have a favorite that big and then 1.5. And a lot of times it makes sense because you get these O'Malley's, but not with Montel Jackson and JP Bays. I don't know. I've seen Jackson fight a few times. He's good. Don't get me wrong, but he's I'm not that impressed with him.
Yeah, like I said, I definitely think this. I did the over on rounds. I think this is a longer fight, and if Montel Jackson wins and dominates, he's going to blow past 68.5. But JP Bays probably won't get past the 40.5. And if JP Bays does a wrestling game plan, because that's how we've seen Montel lose, he'll blow past the 40, and Montel's not going to get past the 68. So I think this is one of the few lines where it's going to be more on Montel, less on Bays is probably the play. I mean, JP Bays has a path to victory. I don't know if he'll take it. We haven't really seen enough. He talks about how good his wrestling is. I know he's a good wrestler, but we haven't had enough fights to see him actually use it. So, I think it's probably more or less. You could do more if you think JP will hang in there and strike. 40 over 3 rounds is not that bad. I completely disagree with the 1.5 round line. So it's to me it's the more probable outcome is more on Jackson, less on JP, because Jackson will probably dictate, stay in his face, beat him up a bit, and JP's really not going to be able to get off.
And those are hard to call. So if you can call it, good for you. I mean, I've told you guys many times, our bets are they all come in the same. They're all over, under. And then occasionally we get like those gems, like the Jack Shore one that was a good one. He went over like 87, another guy went under 36. I was just like, that is brutal for you guys. But it does happen from time to time.
Yeah, that one was brutal.
And honestly, if you can call those ones, then damn, I will be tracking your account to be. I'll be watching you and using you as my top buffer. If someone comes in just nailing all those overs and unders, we don't get many of them. But
and I don't like splitting very often either. But you're starting to widen these lines a bit, which makes them a little harder to pick apart. Let's just take a look at a few slates. I love my Knockout Kings. So let's take a look at Knockout Kings. If you don't know what Knockout Kings is, you basically just need to pick 3 different fighters, any 3 that you want, and then if one of them wins by a knockout or TKO, you win. So let's take a look. We have a 15-person fight card, which means there are 30 fighters. It's an interesting one, though, because I don't think there's going to be a lot of knockouts on this card, and I could be way wrong because Vegas does think there will be. We'll take a quick look here. I mean, I think Anthony Smith wins, but I think you got to throw Ryan Spann in there. He's got that power. Who else we got? I mean, Montel Jackson is another one where people think he's going to come in, beat up JP Bays. We've seen Bays knocked out cold.
Are you just not going to give out the chalk of the week?
I don't even know what it is.
Oh, Buckley, bro. Come on.
I don't even know what it is.
Everyone's going to be on Buckley this week.
Honestly, I think Buckley is probably – you're right. But, man, he's interesting, though. Like, he's interesting because there's a lot of hype there because of that spectacular knockout. And he does fight that way, but he is fighting a big, long, tall dude. And I think he can get in there, rip up the body, go to the head, and make it happen. But I actually think Tony Gravely may be more likely to get a ground and pound TKO than Buckley a pure knockout. So, this is an interesting card because Arman, actually, I'm going to get rid of, let's get rid of Montel Jackson and add Arman in here. And that's probably, you're definitely going to get one here because Arman, nasty wrestler, good on his feet. He can get it done anywhere. And this is KO or TKO, so factor in the wrestlers who can get on top and elbow away.
No, yeah, I think this should be an easy week for the public, but we'll see.
When you have 30 fighters to pick from and literally any three, so let's say I grab these three, any three fighters on the card, I got 25% profit, 2.5 times payout, and a 6-time payout. I mean, I always do
the 6 times payout. Usually we run those promos that you chop a pool, so I'll be on the lookout for those emails. You know what that's about, right? Like an extra $5,000, $10,000. I can't remember exactly what it is, but
yeah, I see those promos often. I'm very conservative. I just stick with my nice 1.25. Every now and then I'll do the 2.5, but a little more risk than I like to do. But that's my trio for Knockout Kings. I'll mess with a little more, but any last words before we head out here?
No, I think my dogs are fighting the neighbor's dogs through the fence again, if you can hear that. My bad. They were doing so good all show.
That's funny.
But I don't know if they picked up. I'm just like, geez, guys, they're good now. No, it was awesome. And Angelo, yeah, man, you ever need some help when your boys bail on you, hit me up. I'm always around. Part of my job is watching your podcast. I can help co-host and make your segues a little smoother. I'm always around, bro.
Well, I definitely appreciate that because when I do it by myself, there were just pauses where I have to pull up different things on my screen to get it going. So I appreciate that. Thanks for hopping on. The insight is absolutely invaluable. Anybody who wants to play, wewantpicks.com/MKF, grab the promo, get a promo, deposit match, use that money, play some of these lines, and have some fun.